All right, we haven't had them back since last June, so let's get the view from the Hill for a three-way chat on this and the continued rise in refugees pouring across the U.S. border into Quebec. Stephen McKinnon is a Liberal parliamentary secretary. His riding's just across the river from here. Karen Vecchio is a Conservative MP from southwestern Ontario. Nathan Cullen, an NDP MP from northern British Columbia. He's here to declare his leadership bid. No, we're done now, right? Okay.
No.
I got to get this tax thing out of the way because I haven't really brought it up with MPs since it was introduced. But I almost wonder if we're seeing this tax policy creating an income class warfare in Canada. Is that too dramatic there, Nathan?
No, I've heard it referenced that way, that they're sort of pitting the one versus the other, the wealthy. I mean, this has been a frame that Trudeau has talked about since, before coming party leader for the Liberals, the wealthy families like his, etc. I think that's been badly handled. I mean, the consultation over the summertime, when small businesses, many of them, that's their busiest time. There's been a lot of perceptions and misperceptions about what's been presented, but there's also this sense from some of Mr. Trudeau's earlier comments that he said a large majority of small businesses are only established to avoid paying taxes. To my small business owners, that's insulting, right? Because it casts this huge net across a whole bunch of people who take risks, mortgage their houses, work hard, and create jobs. So the way they rolled this out was not based on a lot of trust, I think, within the small business community, who were promised a tax cut from Trudeau, and they haven't seen it. It said he would close the CO loophole, tax loophole, $700 million a year. Hasn't done that. And then when there's big tax evasion, like you see with the KPMG scandal, well, it's a sweetheart deal for all those billionaire clients. And so a lot of small businesses are saying, does this guy get me?
Yeah.
And does he understand what the impact might be on my business?
Hang on, Stephen. Let's go to Karen first. Karen's nodding in agreement, so we'll get both sides, and then you can let the thunder roll. Okay.
You know, this announcement came out on July 18th, and at first I didn't really pay attention to it day one or two. But I had to turn the channel immediately because I would probably meet with 5 to 6 persons a day just on this issue throughout the constituency weeks. It is the #1 issue in my riding, whether it's the renovators that are making $73,000 a year on average, whether it's the gas station owners. We're not just talking about doctors. Doctors only make up 12% of the corporations in Canada. So let's remove that whole storyline that they're using, and let's look at the 88% of corporations that are the farmers, that are those small business owners, and the retailers and the restaurateurs. They have totally lost the dialogue on this and have lost faith.
Stephen,
sure.
the Conservatives have launched this campaign called Save Local Business, and they say that hundreds of thousands of Canadians' livelihoods are in jeopardy.
Well, that's actually materially untrue. The number is actually quite small.
What is the number?
Well, the finance minister, I think, will be coming forth with estimates, but it's certainly not in anything approaching that level
He
of
must
scale.
have known how many before he did this, didn't he?
Well, we know about the growth in these Canadian-controlled private corporations.
Okay.
We know about, obviously, how many, whether it's the income sprinkling provision or the passive investment provision. We know generally how many folks are benefiting from that. But let's step back a bit. We are still consulting. We did launch this on July 17th, and the period goes right through the end of this month. And the finance minister, in fact, I just came from a roundtable that he's having with National Capital Region area business people and others. And so he's listening very, very attentively. What we're saying, though, is that there are a series of measures that individuals can take within these corporations that result in them paying lower taxes on their income than other Canadians who get T4 income generally benefit from. So we're saying that we need to level that playing field. If you're going to invest in your business, if you're going to employ a family member, if you're going to do any of these measures that you would seek to do to expand or innovate all of these behaviors that clearly the government wants to reward, those will continue. That will not change under these provisions. What will change is that income that comes into your pocket, whether it's from a salary-deriving person who makes T4 income or someone in a Canadian-controlled private corporation, that income will be taxed at the same rate.
Yeah.
Why interrupt?
Yeah.
Like there may be merit in this policy. We talked about the process rolling out badly. The way the government is perceived, I think the Liberals are perceived on this, is problematic. They don't start off in a good place with a lot of small businesses. And what's worrisome is both the finance minister has admitted to using income splitting or sprinkling, right, himself to avoid paying taxes. Mr. Trudeau and his family have set up these numbered accounts to avoid paying taxes. So maybe in their circles, this is so pervasive that they see this as this massive problem and they're going to unleash it. It worries me that the finance minister launched this without either knowing the number of businesses he's actually going to affect, or knew them and didn't tell anyone, and we still don't know. And that is concerning, because in that gap, in the absence of information, the Conservatives, of course, or other groups will run campaigns that say this is how many people are going to be hit.
I got to move it along.
Okay, I'll let you.
I want the deficit. The deficit. This is the one Stephen really wants to talk about, but it's down to 17.8 billion. It was supposed to be. It was supposed to be almost 24 billion. Hold on. Now, at least it's not 24 billion or going up, but it's still 7.8 billion over the ceiling you were supposed to have. If the economy is doing so well, Stephen, really, humming on all cylinders, if Justin Trudeau's to be believed, and the economists say it is going very well, why haven't you got a deficit elimination plan? Why are we still at 8 billion over what you said would be the maximum deficit the Trudeau government would run on an annual basis?
Well, let's walk, not run by today's news. The first thing is we have economic growth in this country. We have a plan that the governor of Canada, the governor of the Bank of Canada, no less, has acknowledged that are a direct result of the policies that we've put in place. Tax cuts for the middle class and the Canada Child Benefit. So let's not run past this fact that the deficit has gone down, economic growth has gone up, 400,000 new jobs, most of them full-time, and 4.5% growth rates leading the G7. So let's not gloss over that. However, the finance minister, on your question, has been very clear that deficits will continue to trend down as a percentage of GDP, which means ultimately that inflation will take care. If I may put it this way,
we can grow out of a deficit.
We'll eat the deficit because
they take care of themselves.
They clearly don't take care of themselves.
But that's kind of what you said.
No, but what I said was if inflation exceeds your debt to GDP ratio, then you have a decreasing percentage of the deficit as a percentage of the economy. But Don, our measures are working. Our measures are working. And I think this is a day to rejoice. The Conservatives used to say $30 billion deficits. We are almost half of that.
I'm rejoicing that my children have 80% above the $10 billion deficit. This is future generations we're talking about. It's fine to talk about the GDP. It's fine to talk about all these things. We need to see a plan. And we have not seen a plan. We've never seen a plan for this government since 2015 on how to balance a budget. And nor are we going to see it in the near future, because I don't think they have a plan. We saw that with the tax changes, and we see this with the deficit.
I told you the fiscal anchor.
Okay, well, at least,
not good enough.
To be honest, Stephen Harper had 4 larger deficits than this one, but he got rid of them.
Balanced the budget.
He got rid of them.
Steve, that's your
all right. Deficits. Is this just a channel changer for the Liberals? Who are throwing this out, saying go away from the tax plan, or how do you see
it? May be. I mean, sometimes these things do happen on the same day. Sometimes it's pushed out by government a bit earlier to say, look over here. All I'd say is that it is well beyond their small $10 billion small deficit they're going to run. Half of those 400,000 jobs are in the part-time side of things, so that's not exactly the jobs Canadians can feed their families with. The second thing is the Liberals on this infrastructure they keep saying is stirring the economy. They've downgraded their infrastructure spending 4 times since getting into office. They're $3.7 billion short on what they said they would spend. So, and the PBO and other groups have set this, parliamentary budget officer. So it's kind of like they're trying to say both things out of this.
Spend more?
Well, no, they can't claim that they have spent
that's
all.
That's a new one, Don.
They can't claim that our spending has rescued the Canadian economy and then shorted it by $4 billion and say all is well. You kind of wonder, what are they spending the deficit on?
How much will the leader of the Democrats propose to spend on infrastructure?
I do want to get to the refugee question. Let's have a look. There's a graphic here that shows how big the problem is. They're still coming in very quickly. 5,712 people were intercepted in August alone. That's up from 3,134 in July. We've got a total of 13,211. Winter is coming, and they're still coming. How do we deal with this in 35 seconds or less, Nathan?
Before the Prime Minister tweeted out, "Welcome to Canada," it would have been really good if he'd resourced the welcome mat. In terms of border security, in terms of immigration services, we have backlogs on immigration because they haven't named people to the post. And we have the RCMP and our border services saying they need more resources for those numbers that you just quoted. So that welcome is easy to tweet. It's harder to do. And if the Prime Minister doesn't want to leave all these people in limbo, not knowing whether their citizenship is. He has to cancel third-party agreement with the United States because it is not a safe asylum place for these refugees, and actually has to resource the welcome.
I'm going to get Stephen's response before he goes to you for the final word.
Well, look, folks are coming to Canada as a general thing. That's a good thing. We are a beacon of hope to many people. We are quite prepared, and I think you've seen at La Colle the mobilization of resources.
Those tents aren't going to do very well in winter.
In fact, to welcome people. Unfortunately, people are choosing this means of leaving the United States and coming to Canada. We have to cope with that. They're not coming through border crossings.
Yeah.
And the fact is that this country is prepared to deal with them. The government of Quebec is prepared to deal with them. The partners that are working on this are prepared to deal with them. And Canada has responded, I think, in an admirable way.
Last word to Karen.
The bottom line is we're shrinking all of our resources because we have illegal immigrants coming into Canada. There is a way to properly come into Canada. There are border crossings that can do so. What's happening is now we're taking all of these resources that we should be giving to valid refugees, and we're spreading it across. And we're seeing almost half of these asylum claims being rejected because they're not true refugees.
Okay.
We have to do it properly.
Good discussion. Thank you all. We'll see you again next week.